everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Anja. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I'm going to stay off camera for a bit because today we're going to focus on this. So this is my Charmed Life Master Planner by Alexis Giostra, aka Miss Trenchcoat here on YouTube and on Instagram. I bought this planner a while back, April 2019, and used it for a few months and really did like it. I liked the way that the planner was laid out. I liked that it was pre-printed but undated. That was kind of what I was looking for at the time. I liked the different sections that it had each month. So you had, let me go to where I stopped using it. So you had your monthly spread, which had some room for notes and also room to put 3 goals for each week, which I really liked that as part of my monthly planning. And then kind of a place to just brain dump all of your tasks, a place to track expenses, which I didn't really need then, but now with self-publishing, it would be really nice to be able to track that sort of thing, especially going into next year, after my next book comes out. And then with the weekly plan, I liked the kind of vertical layout. There was a number of different ways that I could do this, either as goals and then tasks and then notes, or as I sometimes did, turning the line section into an hourly schedule going from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then having the bottom for notes, and that worked really well. So I really liked the flexibility in this. And then in the back it had the project planner, which I also really liked and wanted to use. I really loved this planner. My problem with this planner as you can see, it doesn't lay flat. I was constantly struggling. These early pages are really bent back. You know, I usually would have to try to stick something there, but if I needed Monday, then that didn't really help me very much. So, as much as I loved it, I really only lasted from April was the first month, and then I think July was the last month that I used it. So I only used it for about 4 months, and then I still have 8 months. I counted it not that long ago. I still have 8 months left in this planner. So I'd already been thinking about trying to take this thing apart when Alexis herself did a video on her channel on how to take this apart and turn it into a ring-bound planner. I had since kind of set this to the side and purchased my Fringe Studio planner, which is spiral bound. Really love it. I've been using this for over a year. I now have the rest of September and then October, November, and December to use in this, so I am planning on finishing out the year in this planner. This planner wasn't that expensive. I believe it was under $30 on Amazon, but that's still a significant amount of money, and so I don't want to not use it. And the reason why I thought I would take it apart now is because through the rest of 2020, I could really use all of this project planning space. I think with getting my next book out and already starting to work on the project after that, it would just be really nice to have a project planner to help me. So I really want to kind of get into being able to use this section of the planner right now. So that's my kind of long-winded introduction. So I have the planner. I also have a ruler and an X-Acto knife. I have a paper trimmer just in case we need to trim anything off after I've cut it out of here. And then I have my 6-hole punch, and I have a ring binder, 6-ring binder to use. I've already kind of taken 1 page out the back to test the holes and everything, and I think this will work. Let's get into this. So I haven't looked back at that video, but it was pretty self-explanatory. I have also, just to test to see if this was going to work at all, I have already undone the back cover and a couple of the pages, as I said. So these were the last 2 pages. So these are what I have taken off so far. And all I did for that, if I can open up my X-Acto knife, all I did for that was lay the knife down where I knew I wanted to cut, and then I drew the X-Acto knife down. It took a couple scores, but not much. I really was playing around with the pressure and got the cover off and a couple of the pages, and then there's still some lines where I've continued to score. So that's where I stopped. I just wanted to make sure that this was going to work, that my X-Acto knife was still sharp before I got into the rest of it, and then also started realizing that I really want to try to bend the spine back and try to cut over a little bit further. So these back few pages that have already kind of been cut through, looks like it's just this last one. Just gonna go lightly so that I can try to get that out. We'll be a little bit further away from the spine, but I think these other ones I'm gonna try to get as close to the spine as possible. So I want to make sure I keep the page numbering right, so I need to remember to flip them as I go. So I'm just kind of really bending and pushing this part of the spine out so that I can try to get my ruler as close to the spine as possible. Now I should say, if you don't want to deal with all of this, you can usually go into, I think even like an Office Max, but a better quality printer also would both either cut the binding off for you just like that and just kind of cut it off the spine, and then you could do your own hole punching, whatever system you wanted to use. Or you could also probably take this in and have it spiral bound. I am not doing that right now for a few reasons. A, I don't really have much to do right now on the weekends. During the week, yes. On the weekends, I'm always up for a project. And that leads into B, cost. Both of those things cost, whereas I already own an X-Acto knife. I already own a ruler. I did purchase the hole punch, but I wanted that anyway, because if I'm going to get into using a 6-ring binder, a hole punch would be good to have. So I really haven't spent a lot of money on this. So for cost reasons, that's kind of reason number 2, letter B, whatever system we're going with here. And then the third reason, even if I could afford it, I'm not really going out for non-essential errands, and because I can do this myself at home, it kind of would make going out and doing it a non-essential errand, because I could do it myself at home. So if it weren't COVID and if I weren't stressed about money, there are other things I'd rather spend my money on than something I know I can do myself. So if you're watching this a couple years in the future and you can go out and that's not a problem, then yeah, I think if I could go out and do stuff, and if I wasn't worried about saving as many of my pennies as possible, I would go and at least have them cut the binding off, if not do the full spiral binding for me. That's why I'm doing this myself. Everyone loves a good project that we can share on YouTube. So I'm just going to stick this ruler and try to make sure that I'm lining the ruler up. I don't want crooked pages. To give this a try. And obviously be very careful. X-Acto knives, I feel like, are typically much sharper than you think they're going to be. But that worked pretty well. That almost got 2 pages in one go. It would be awesome if I managed to do this without needing the paper trimmer. So let's do that again. Try maybe a tiny bit more pressure. I don't really want to be cutting these out one at a time. That will get a bit exhausting. It seems like 2 at a time is going to be the way that I'm going to go. I'm going to see if I can get the spine kind of. It feels so wrong to tear a book apart, but I keep trying to remind myself it's a planner, not a book. I just want to try to get this. There we go. Separate it out a bit more. So now I'm just kind of following that line. So lining up the ruler right up to that line of those pages. So I am going to put my music back on and set you guys on a time lapse, and I'm going to get through more of these pages. So as I'm going, I'm realizing my pages, I don't know if you can see this, but they're moving over ever so slightly. So that's something that I need to be aware of and make sure that I'm not really letting that happen. Haha. I think I can just kind of peel those away. So now I feel like I could almost try cutting. Might not even really need the ruler. I think this page needs to come out where it is. There. So now I think I can get almost right up to the binding. But every so often I'm going to have to move those pages out of the way and then tear them off as I've done over here. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to try to get through at least the project planning section, which is all of those pages. So that's what we're aiming for, which is about half of the planner, but that is the half of the planner that I know I want to be using over the next few months while I finish out the year in my other planner. So now I have half the planner is still bound and half the planner is all loose pieces of paper. That ended up starting to go quicker than in the beginning. And as you probably noticed, I stopped using the ruler because as I was going down, this bit that was sticking up became my guide. And so I was just running the blade along that kind of at an angle and really pushing into that binding. Towards the end here, I was actually getting pretty close to the original binding of the book. So I'm going to leave the monthly and weekly planner kind of still bound so that in late December, January, as I get close to finishing up my Fringe Studio planner, I'll prepare that to start using that for next year. So rather than having it all loose, I don't think I'm going to put it into my ring binder just yet. I'm going to save this for just the project stuff and add this in later because I don't really need these pages right now. So we're just going to set those off to the side. Now, I could get really kind of nitpicky about it and go through and perfectly trim off the inside edges of this with my paper trimmer, but I really don't think it needs that. They're a little wonky. They're not perfectly straight. There is a slight wave to it in some places, but I'm not mad about that. Like, that doesn't really bother me. So I don't really want to sacrifice margin space for the hole punch just to have a super straight edge, especially because it's going to then get kind of hidden within the rings. So I'm not going to worry about the paper trimmer, but if you struggle to cut straight or if anything goes extra wonky, then you might want that. So now I need to hole punch these. Like I said, I did the one as a guide, try to have it lined up and figure out my hole punch can be adjusted to different widths. So I've got it lined up for the rings that I have, so it's the right width apart. And then I've got this tab here pulled out to where the page kind of needs to sit. So I stick it all the way in and then line it up with that tab there. And then that puts it at the right spot to sit nicely within the binder. Now I need to hole punch all of these. So I did just the first few just to make sure that they're all lining up. So this was 2 different batches, but they're lining up. I'm going to start putting them in here as I hole punch them so that they're not all flying loose. And then that way I can be checking to make sure that everything is kind of where I want it so that they don't get too close to the top or too close to the bottom. I've got my little today ruler divider thing, so I definitely want to make sure that it's not so high up in the binder that that won't be useful. Okay, so down to the last bit. I'm also going to hole punch the last page from the printed version. Also, this is still a valuable notes page, so I'm going to stick that in. My test page from earlier. Then we're going to hole punch. Had to clean that out. The bottom was getting a little bit full. So I'm going to hole punch that last page. And then I'm also going to hole punch the back cover because it will just help give some extra stability at the back. It could also be used as a divider. So I do have a little plastic divider that came with the folio, as well as a clear pocket, zipper pocket, and then the divider. So there we go. Overall, that was much easier and faster than I thought it would be. I've probably been working on this about 30 minutes from start to this stage where we're at. But now I have a project planner binder. There's definitely still room in here, but I do feel like the space with the pages, like the rings are as full as I would want them to be. So this binder wouldn't fit all the project planning pages and these pages. That would just be way too much for the rings. I wouldn't be able to get them to close. I think this will be great to have as my project notes. This will primarily be a project planner for self-publishing, thinking of designing and printing off for in here a page or a double page spread that shows my projected publication schedule. So what books I'm going to publish in what year, because I've got all that in my head. So I'd love to be able to use this to start jotting down story ideas. I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I honestly think doing it yourself is really easy. It's going to be kind of fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to start using it and start setting up different projects. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you've used the Charm Life Master Planner, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear tips on how you've used it. I think that would be really interesting to hear. Let's just talk planners in the comment section, or just say hi in the comments because I love chatting with you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you all soon in the next one. Bye!